to him. The termination is not effective for 90 days. So that at least, at a minimum, he is paid for 90 days. And the contract is, it says nothing about whether he may continue to act as executive director during this period of time. So the board is going to have to give some consideration to that. I say at a minimum he has to be paid for the 90 days. It doesn't say whether he may continue to act as executive director, although one way to read it is he may continue to do so. So you may have to take a position on that today.
Okay. I think that would be counterproductive, so I would make that after you're finished.
All right. Then, just continuing with the wording in the contract, upon receipt of this notice, which I've referred to, he has 30 days to demand arbitration. Arbitration.
Who's speaking?
Michael Calora. I'm sorry, Mrs. O'Leary.
I thought so, but I wasn't sure. Thank you.
So I'm just informing the board of the terms of the contract entered into between the board and Mr. Bassett. And this is solely in his position as executive director. It does not address his position as member of the board. We can get to that in a moment, but let me just finish with his position, which is a paid position, obviously. So during this period of time during which he gets notice and can request arbitration, he will continue to get a check for payment. That's what this document says. And then there should be a hearing before an arbitrator, subject to the rules of the American Arbitration Association. And the burden, we can argue burdens later, but in any event, the board would presumably have to justify just cause with it by introducing the PIRAC report and going from there. He has the right to contest either that that's enough, even if it were true, or the fact that it's true. You know, that something in there is simply inaccurate. So that would be, and during that period of time, at least until the arbitration board rules, he may continue to be paid.
Is that beyond the 90 days? So as long as arbitration is continuing?
It says, the last sentence of this agreement says, if employee demands arbitration, which obviously we don't know if Mr. Bassett will, the board's decision to terminate employee shall be stayed until such time as the arbitration panel has issued its decision. So at least he gets paid during this interim period. Beyond that, I think the board could vote to suspend him as executive director until such time as the arbitration panel reaches a decision. But of course, as I said, he will be continued to be paid, and appoint an interim director if you want. That's up to you. But that of course has a financial impact on the board because it's a double payment of some sort during this period of time. It's a contract that's favorable to Mr. Bassett that was approved presumably by the board, and so be it.
I think all the points you raised.
He gets paid while he has appeal process. What if an arbitrator says no, he's not entitled to anything?
At that point, that ruling, payment stops as of that date.
Okay, thank you.
I think before we get into this too further, since this was not an expected agenda item here, I think we should.
So
I don't even know if I'm supposed to be in the room when you're having this discussion.
Well, I think the only thing I would suggest is that you've now authorized the law firm to represent you during these proceedings, and we will send notice to Mr. Bassett. I think after that, and we will send a letter to the board members advising them of what we recommend beyond that. Would that be suitable? Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
And of course we will stay in contact with Mr. Morse during this period as well.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
No, Mr. Morse.
I'm adjourning. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Hold on one second. I think there's something.
The chair doesn't have to recognize the audience. There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Point of
Aye.
information.
Good.
Was the motion to terminate as chair and executive director?
Yes.
Okay, maybe for a point of discussion, I don't think, and I haven't done the research, but I don't think the board has the
You don't have the power to
authority,
do that.
to terminate Mr. Bassett as a board member.
Just like we can't terminate any member for attendance.
Okay.
So,
The
I think,
the motion.
I think the motion fairly drafted should either be in two parts. One can be, but I'm not sure one would be effective. I really think you are authorized by the contract to terminate Mr. Bassett as executive director for just cause. And you have done so. I don't know that your vote, which also included terminating him as a member of the board, is effective.
So when we want it to, not to get things worse mixed up, why don't we just clarify?
Why don't we just
State it.
restate that motion to be just the executive director and not the chairman, or not the board member?
Okay. So do you want me to suggest a motion for you?
Yes.
If you would move to terminate the executive director for cause as defined in his contract dated September 6, 2006, Section 8, for reasons set forth in the PIRAC audit of 3/17/2010.
Okay.
And authorize the law firm of Dwyer and Coulora to take such steps, including notice to the employee of his termination and to represent the board in further actions concerning that action.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I can't vote. All right, there's a motion to adjourn.
Now, one second. Was there going to be there was a discussion of suspension?
No.
Well, now you have now voted to terminate.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna leave him in place?
Well,
That's
that's
the
where I think
question.
we
You
need
wanna
to,
leave
before
him
we
in place.
adjourn.
If you don't want to leave him in place, you have to vote to suspend him and as executive director, but continue his salary and other prerequisites of the office until such time as an arbitrator rules.
Can I just add, naming somebody to be in charge seems like it would be a really wise decision.
Why, do you want to be in charge?
No, but I really don't
I
want a
don't
period
think-
of leadership vacuum to continue.
I think that's something us as a board we should decide at this point. If there is, what you gave, what, a 60-day termination, or
It's
90-day
90.
termination period. That what's the feeling of the board to have him still serve during that 90 days, or should we be looking to because there's a lot of financial I don't know. It's a tough situation.
Well, why should we pay two people?
Well, that's the question. Do we
Well,
want to continue?
You're always bitching about how much money is being spent, so I'm saying to you, maybe we ought to say that if it's a 90 days, but then if the arbiter makes a decision earlier, then it's that day,
Or it could be later.
Or it could be later?
That's the problem.
Oh, I thought 90 days.
You don't have
is-
control over the arbitrator.
I thought 90
So,
days. Well, can we say that,
Does this contract only call for 90, that he would have only 90 days after we, what does the contract call for?
if the board votes to terminate employee, I'm reading from the contract, Section 8,
Okay,
if the board votes to terminate employee's employment, which it's done, it first must send employee a notice of intent to terminate the employee, which we will do on your behalf in the next day or so. 90
Right.
days before the effective date of such termination. So the termination is only effective 90 days from today or tomorrow. I have said to you that I think you have to continue payment of his salary during that period. It is unclear, however, whether you have to actually allow him to exercise the duties of the office. That you could
Don't I have a right to a hearing?
you certainly have a right to a hearing before an arbitrator, according to this contract.
Not a hearing before the board.
I don't read that in this contract. If it's elsewhere in the rules, then we would have to so advise the board.
Why don't we